Charlie, how are we doing?
So I am trying to figure out how I can get on the same emotional level in my relationship as my husband is currently.
Uh-oh. Does that mean you're gonna go up or gonna go down?
Up.
Okay. Tell me about it.
So we've been married for about 8.5 years.
Okay.
We had a really rough couple years about almost 4 years ago.
Okay.
Some infidelity, and we almost got divorced, and things were just really terrible for about 1.5 years.
When you say really rough time and some infidelity, you're speaking very vague. So did you cheat on him? Did he cheat on you? Did y'all both cheat on each other? What was the situation?
So my husband had an affair
Okay.
for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then he told me about it, and then for the following year was kind of just this emotional roller coaster of us trying to fix it, and then him saying, no, I want to be with this other girl, and okay, let's try and fix it again. No, I still want to be with her.
Oh, okay.
And that went all the way up. For about a year, we had the divorce papers filed. We were just about divorced, and then he was getting into graduate school out here in Tennessee, and we were getting ready to move. And right before, it was like 2 weeks before we moved, he was like, no, I really do want to try in our relationship. I've cut things off with her. I'm completely committed to our marriage. And then we started our marriage out here.
Okay, so take me back to that one moment. Why did you choose to stay with him?
I had chosen to stay with him the whole time, just partly because I knew that if he would come back to how he used to be, that we would be really good together. We had always been really good together. We'd always been really good friends. And I mean, before all of that, he had been, the love of my life and everything that I had wanted. And he's such a good dad and partner. And I knew that we could get that back if he committed back to the relationship. And I didn't want to let that go.
So he has recommitted. Am I right?
Yes.
But it's not the way things were. Is that right?
Well, that's the thing, is our relationship is better now than it was before. Before all of that happened, even at the beginning of our marriage, in a lot of ways, our marriage is a lot better than it ever was.
Okay.
He really, when he committed, he 100% committed, and I went through a lot of therapy to kind of help myself heal and work through things, and he just put a lot of effort into our relationship and giving me space when I needed it.
What's the but here? What's the ... I feel a shoe about to drop.
Well, there's no big shoe. It's just before all of that happened, he was, like I said, the love of my life. And even though things are so much better now, I'm not as in love with him as I was before. And where he says, I'm the most in love I've ever been in our relationship, and he's the happiest he's ever been in our relationship, I'm not there yet, because I still feel like there's this black mark there. And the person that I thought he wasn't really, because he was able to do all of these extremely hurtful things.
Gotcha. And so you were hurt. And so here's one of the analogies I use. We all carry backpacks around, right? Mm-hmm. And let's assume, and usually this isn't fully accurate, but let's just assume here that you played no role in the affair. Things were perfect. You were the dream partner. He was the dream partner. And he just had a girlfriend for 1.5 years that he just couldn't give up fully. And if you think in those terms of the backpack, he picked up a cinder block and just dropped it in your backpack, right? Mm-hmm. He wrecked what you thought was perfect. And you've been through therapy. You have recommitted yourself to one another. You've forgiven him. And for some reason, you're still carrying this around with you. Tell me why you will not put that brick down. Because it's not weighing him down. Do you have little kids too?
Yeah, we have 3 little ones.
Okay, so you got 3 little ones. How old are they?
I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Oh my gosh. Okay. On top of a pandemic too, right? Because why not?
Right. And graduate school.
And why not? All right. So why are you still holding this brick? Why are you still carrying it?
I feel like some days I've let it go.
You haven't.
And then
some days you may take the whole backpack off, but for some reason you're still carrying it. Why?
I think part of me is afraid it'll happen again.
Can I tell you something that sucks? It might.
Yeah.
All relationships are risk, right? And there's a part of your heart and mind that was completely gutted when this happened last time. And there's a part in your heart and mind that is constantly vigilant for it might happen again.
Right.
And that is a tiny little sliver, a tiny little fracture in your relationship that will be there until you fully decide to put this brick down. And that means you're going to fully risk getting hurt again. And it might happen again. I hope it never does, but it might. But one thing you are for sure making sure happens is that you never fully give it a full go because you're still hanging on to that thing. And the only way to truly lean into this deal is if you put that brick down. Did it hurt? Yes. Was it your fault? Nope. Did it happen? Yeah. Here's the other thing. Or leave.
Right. And it took me a long time to accept the fact that I wasn't stuck in this relationship by the time we decided to stay together, and that I was choosing to stay.
Right.
For the first year we were recovering, I was resentful and feel like I was tricked and stuck in this situation, but right. I have moved past that. But every once in a while, that thought comes back.
So I want to back out real quick and give you this piece just as an outsider, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You have a 7, a 4, and a 1-year-old. You're in graduate school in the middle of a pandemic in a relatively new state. I want you to give yourself some grace here, okay? If you had the single greatest husband who'd ever lived, who was perfect and only had eyes for you forever, things would still feel wonky and out of place right now. Things would still feel like a dumpster fire because they are.
Okay.
And you put this on top of that. Here's the thing. If you said, I forgive you, there comes a moment, and hear me carefully, okay? If you said, I forgive you, and I'm 100% in. Have y'all had another child? Y'all have had another baby since this, huh?
We did, yes.
Okay. So you are so in, we made another human together.
Mm-hmm.
If you continue to carry this backpack around, you are choosing to injure the people in your home with it. Does that make sense?
It does. How do I... Because like I said, there's a lot, and more, there are days that I don't have it. And it tends to be the days that I am dealing with depression a little bit more, or maybe my anxiety pops up, that these thoughts come up more.
Perfect.
And I don't really know how to get it out at that point.
So have you heard of me talk about David Kessler's work and the purple elephant?
Is that just the focusing your mind, controlling your thoughts, I guess?
There you go. So close your eyes real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You got it?
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to imagine all 3 of your kids standing on top of one another outside in the front yard. Your 1-year-old on the top of that little kid pyramid. You got it?
Mm-hmm.
And you see your 1-year-old up there with like a yellow hat on, and they're just waving in the wind, and you're afraid they're going to fall. Do you see them?
Yes.
Okay, open your eyes. You just proved to millions of people that you can control your thoughts. You can't control what pops in there, but you can control what you choose to focus on. And so the commitment you have to decide is, am I all in? If you are all in, what you're going to do over the next few months, over the next few years, as you continue to heal, is you're going to have to recognize, you're going to have to come to terms with, he could do this again. He probably won't. Let's hope. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. My hope is that you love him and know him enough that you would not have agreed to continue on if you really thought that was going to happen. And then every time she pops into your mind, you get to decide from that point forward, am I going to meditate on this? Am I going to let it set off all my alarms? Or am I going to intentionally think of a wonderful thing my husband's done? If every time that you wake up and you're feeling anxious and you haven't slept because you got a 1-year-old and you're exhausted and you're just eating Twinkies because they're so good and your nutrition's low, and then you just all of a sudden are struck with that day that he told you, hey, we got to talk, and your stomach drops and you get that warm feeling in your stomach, that's the moment you get to decide, nope. And in my house, I actually say it out loud, nope. It's kind of become a joke with my wife and my son. My daughter doesn't recognize it yet, but I'll just be like, nope. And that's just me announcing, I'm not going to think about that. And now I've been doing it long enough that literally it will go away. If an old crisis scene pops in my head, an old thing that I said to my wife, an old thing I did, in the past pops into my head, I will go, nope. And I will replace it with another thought that's positive because I get to make that choice. And you got to be graceful with yourself because it's hard and it takes time.
Right. That grace for yourself, it's a slow process.
How much of this affair do you blame yourself for?
I think at the beginning it was a lot.
Okay.
Because during the time that it happened, I was physically sick. I was dealing with postpartum depression from my second, and I was, we were both working full-time jobs on opposite schedules, and so I felt like I wasn't a good enough wife and partner, and blamed myself quite a bit. And like I said, I did a lot of therapy. I was in therapy like 2 or 3 times a week.
Sure.
For almost a year.
But here's the part.
Able to kind of work that.
Here's the part that therapists often don't tell you about. Okay. You have the initial shock, that devastating shock of the affair. But what they don't tell you about is you lose trust in yourself.
Yeah.
And you lose trust in, how did I let this happen? How did I not see this? Why am I still with this guy? What is wrong with me? Why am I having another kid with it? They don't tell you that you lose trust in yourself. And the person I want you to get reacquainted with is you, Charlie. Because you are worth treating yourself right. And the more you feel at home in your own body, is the more you feel at home with this guy, the more your brain will go, all right, we're safe. And by the way, you just gave me a hint here. Was this about the age your second child was when you found out?
He was about 15 months when I found out.
Yeah, so you're right smack in the middle of it. Your brain is saying, we remember this, watch out. Right?
That's true. I didn't really think about that.
Oh my gosh, I should have a podcast. I'm a genius. You see that, Kelly? Genius. Not really, Charlie, but yeah. So I want to, number one, thank you so much for the call. Be kind to yourself, love yourself, let your brain off the hook, and recognize that all relationships starts with risk. People hurt one another, they forgive one another. But if you've forgiven him and you're choosing to continue to weaponize this, then suddenly you're going to find yourself becoming the offender in the house. And that gap in that relationship is going to affect your kids. It's going to affect your marriage. And so if you're all in, be all in. And that means risking pain sometime down the way. And you're worth it. Tell your alarms you're all right. Tell them thank you for looking out for you, but tell them you're all right.